So what's your reaction to the Timberwolves signing him long-term?
Well, I mean, he is such a success story because when he came into the league, he really just started playing basketball. He hasn't been playing his whole life. He was a football player. And so for him to go from where he's been over the last few years to get a max contract is really impressive in the first few years of his career. And then I got to say this. They got 3 max contracts on the Timberwolves now. And when you're paying 3 players at the maximum, that's Rudy Gobert, that's Karl Anthony Towns, and now Anthony Edwards, that's a very expensive team to be losing in the first round in 5 games.
Well, they weren't totally healthy, so I guess that's the question now. What do you think about the direction this Timberwolves organization is going in, Rich?
Well, to me, Anthony Edwards is the face of the organization, right? I know Karl Anthony Towns is still that dude, #1 pick, all of the things. It's no disrespect, but I think when you're looking at this and you look at who can we move if something doesn't work out, so I think the clock is definitely on the Timberwolves. But as far as Anthony Edwards, whatever the max extension is, he deserves the max extension. He's the #1 pick, rookie of the year, got better every single year in every statistical category. He is that dude, right? And they've been to the postseason. So for me, Anthony Edwards, back up the Brinks truck, get every dollar that you can. That's fine. Everything else is now up in flux. He is not.
So we've all talked about how long did they give this group, okay? And as you mentioned, they were not all healthy last year. Karl Towns missed a lot of the season with that torn calf injury.
Even in the last stretch.
Even in the last stretch. I mean, we had punching walls. And, that was a tough way to head into the playoffs. But I think the sense is they want to give this group a year. They want to give this group this season to play together. We've talked about the second apron enough. I don't have Zach's apron here, but
I do. We can get it.
You got it. Okay, it would look like a bib on me. It doesn't match with the red, but this group though has 1 year because the league has 1 year. You have 1 year to really see what you have before you have to make some very tough financial decisions.
Let's bring Kendrick Perkins into this conversation if we could in just a little bit. He said he's going to be ready in just a little bit. He's having a bit of an audio issue here.
Of course.
But Rich, if Ramona is saying give them a year, what are you looking for in this year? When you have 3 centers on your roster, when you have 3 max players on your roster, what are you looking for as a marker of success?
Well, it's a little confusing when you talk about Naz Reid, right? So he's a power forward center. And then when you kind of add Karl Anthony Towns, we know he's very similar to Anthony Davis. He prefers to play the 4, doesn't necessarily want to play the 5 and have to bang and deal with all that. So you bring in Rudy Gobert so that there's a natural position for him to be in, right? Very similar when Anthony Davis had, Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee. Like, you want some bigs to make your power forward most comfortable. So I think, yes, they are front court heavy, but ultimately 1 year. Show us improvement. When you think about the Memphis Grizzlies, obviously last year was tough, this year, but there was improvement every year that we're going to invest in this core. I think this core, especially with Anthony Edwards, but until he becomes the #1 most important player on your team, I think there's still going to be this kind of, power balance battle. Is it Karl Anthony Towns? Is it him?
It is no longer a false alarm. Kendrick Perkins is ready to join us, as well as Zach Lowe, as we say hello to them both.
Zach.
I'm going to start with you here, Perk. Anthony Edwards, he gets the bag. Your reaction?
As expected. Look, Anthony Edwards, we already know he's a generational talent. And I know I throw that out there a lot, but I'm serious about this one when it comes down to him. But when I look at Anthony Edwards, I think bigger than just the franchise. Yes, this is a loud statement, 260 million reasons why they have handed him the keys to the vehicle. But I think about as LeBron James started to get older, from about the age of 36, every single year we've been searching for that one guy to put as the face of the league, whether it was Luka, Ja, Giannis, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell. We've been searching. And I think, when you look at Anthony Edwards, the way he conducts himself off the floor, the smile, the charisma, you could brand him, he's marketable. And how he delivers on the floor as well, Minnesota really got a special one that actually could take over that role of actually being the face of the league for a long time.
Yeah. Now that we are, 2 days removed from Lillard officially asking out, where do things stand?
So things are fine right now, but they could head in the direction of uncomfortable pretty soon, because this is a question of value. Dame Lillard has made it pretty clear where he wants to go. Miami is his strong preference. There's also a respect for the Spurs organization and the Brooklyn Nets, and so that's limiting where Portland could potentially trade him if they want to abide by his wishes. But the Portland Trailblazers also have to survey the whole league and get a sense of what is the best return for Damian Lillard. This is a guy who is an all-NBA player, even when he sits the last 17 games of the season, still made third-team All-NBA.
Yep.
And let's say the best offer comes outside of those three teams, and they feel that they need to do that for their franchise. How is that going to sit with Dame Lillard? Does he say, I'm just not going to go there? Is he going to just stay home in the new 25,000 square foot house he just built in Portland? Does he say things publicly that make it very uncomfortable for a team that might want to trade for him? And so we're not there yet, but we're heading in that direction.
We're heading in the direction that we could see, if this doesn't go the way that Damian Lillard wants to, which we all know at this point is Miami, him potentially sitting out if he's traded to another team. That's the direction we could be heading in, just to make sure I'm clear, Ramona?
Yeah, I mean, I think if teams are, if he ends up going to a place where they choose to negotiate with teams that he doesn't want to go to,
okay, this
could be a very uncomfortable situation. I've sort of pressed on this, and the sense I get is, he's not there yet. It's only 2 days into this.
Sure.
But Dame Lillard was doing events in Portland yesterday. He was doing an event at McKinleyville High School at his dealership there. He has a nice house. I think he's planning on living there even after he gets traded, if they are to oblige this trade request. But this is the market is limited here for the Trailblazers, and they, as our colleague Adrian Wojnarowski has reported, they're fielding offers from all over the league. And so we'll see how that plays out, because Dame Lillard doesn't have a no-trade clause. LeBron James doesn't have a no-trade clause. Giannis Antetokounmpo doesn't have a no-trade clause. The reason why the only person in the league who has that is Brad Beal is most stars believe, you're not going to trade for a superstar who doesn't want to play for your team.
Right.
Well, let's see.
So, Richard, I thought you ended our show on Saturday. All the days are blending together at this point on the absolute perfect note. It is so rare that everybody on a panel, fans, all of us sitting here in studio, can all sit around and say, you know what? Good for Dame. You can't fault him. He gave it, to have that happen to a superstar who is requesting a trade is so incredibly rare. So I guess my question is, do the Trailblazers owe it to Damian Lillard to trade him to where he wants to go?
Well, they don't owe it to him particularly in that sense. But I will say this. Every player in the NBA is watching. Every team, every fan is watching. The Portland Trailblazers have a history of being very good to their players, right? It's a great place to play. It's a great organization. If you look at over the last 30 years, they are typically a very good team, very respectable playoff team going back to, the Sabonis days and the Scottie Pippen days, and then you can go to LaMarcus Aldridge and the Brandon Roy. Then you got Dave. They've always been a very consistent franchise. But beware, if one of the staples of your organization has set out, he set out the last 17 games, as Ramona said, he was probably healthy. Let's just say that. He's having a career year. But they go to Dame and say, hey, Dame, if you sit down, we can get a good draft pick. We can trade that to improve the team. There's a lot of, maybe we get the #1 pick in Victor Wembanyama. Well, all of a sudden, they don't get that. They get the 3rd pick, and they draft a small guard to be right next to him, similar to Anthony Simons, similar to C.J. McCollum. And he's not on the same timeline. So to me, the Portland Trailblazers better be very careful how they handled it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.